Hey Matthews, we have just finished our linear function unit and we are getting into our exponential function unit. And today we're going to learn how to write equations. So here we go. All right, that one was pretty bad. Okay, here we go. Let me switch my screen here and we will get going. All right, so I want to review how to write a linear equation. And it is in the form y equals mx plus b. We call that slope-intercept. So this should just be a review. The m is your slope, and your b is your y-intercept. And so we want to be able to look at a table and determine what it's going to be. If it's going to be linear, if it's going to be exponential, or maybe it's going to be neither. So if we look at this particular table, we can see in the x it's increasing by 1. So we're going to fill in the chart based on the patterns that we're seeing. Now in the y, it looks like the pattern that we're seeing, we're going from 10 to 18, 18 to 26, 26 to 34. So it looks like we are increasing by 8 each time. And we need to make sure that that's happening each and every time. This is called an arithmetic sequence, and we'll get that written down. And so based on that pattern, I can get my other numbers. So we'll keep adding 8 and get 42, keep adding 8, and we get 50. So two things that we need to know is the y-intercept and our slope. So our y-intercept is pretty easy to find. That's when x is 0. So when x is 0, y is 10. And you can see that's that first value, that first data point in our table. Now to get the slope, it's that constant rate of change. And so how do we figure that out? Well, we're going to find our change in y over our change in x. So our change in y is 8. Our change in x is 1. And so we get that our slope is positive 8. And now we're ready to write the equation. So the equation in slope-intercept is y equals our slope, our m. Don't forget that x, and then plus our y-intercept. And our y-intercept this time just happens to be a positive number. Well, let's take a look at what it looks like for an exponential function and what that equation is going to look like. Okay, so you can see it's a little bit different. We still have, we have an A. That's a little bit different. We still have the letter B, we have the letter X, and we have the letter Y. So instead of M, we have this letter A, and so we'll figure out what each of those represent. Now, one thing we have to keep in mind is the letter B here has to be bigger than 0. Otherwise, it won't be an exponential equation. So that's why I have that little side note there. Now, this time, the letter A, that is going to represent the y-intercept. So a little bit different from our slope-intercept on a linear equation. The B is going to represent your common ratio. Okay, also we call that the multiplier. So let's see what happens in this chart. Again, your x values are increasing by 1, so I can fill those in. But this time, we're looking to see what we are multiplying by. Well, we're going from 1 to 4, 4 to 16, 16 to 64. I believe the pattern is multiply by 4. I think that's going to work for us. And let me make that a star just so you know it's multiply. So I'm going to go ahead and complete the chart. Multiply by 4. I'm going to get 64 times 4, 256. And let's times it by 4 again. 1024. So you see I have to do a little bit of math at times too. Now this time the y-intercept in this chart, again, it's when x is 0. What is our y value? This time our y value is 1. And our common ratio, or our multiplier, is 4. Now we could also get that by taking two values in our y chart. I could go 16 divided by 4. That gives me 4. And they have to be right next to each other. I could take 64 divided by 16. And that also gives me 4. So if you're doing some tables and you're not really sure, well, what is it I'm multiplying by? Just take two numbers that are right beside each other, take that bigger value and divide it by that smaller value and see what that ratio is giving you. All right, let's see what that equation is going to be now. So it says y equals, now looking from up above, let's see, I'm going to unzoom it here, not sure. Do that here quick. Wanted to get everything in with that equation. Looks like I'm not going to be able to here right now. That's all right. Okay, there's our equation. We need the letter A first, and remember that A is y-intercept, so I'm going to put 1 here first. Then I put my parentheses. The B is that common ratio, and we found out that that is 4. And then we're going to raise it to the x power. All right, so a little bit different compared to a linear equation. But again, we want you to be able to recognize when it's linear, when it's exponential. And just one last note, this is called a geometric sequence. So I wanted to make sure that she ended up getting that written out because we'll use that terminology. Hey, is it arithmetic? That'll give you a linear. Is it geometric? And that would give you a exponential. Now I want you to go ahead and cut this in half. Find an open spot in your notebook and get that glued in.